Sales is the most lucrative skill in the world, period. The problem is most sales advice out there today is outdated, cheesy, and could even keep you from the deals that can make all the difference in your career. This is the No BS Sales School, a podcast for entrepreneurs and salespeople who want to master the skill of selling without all the BS. There is a step that you're missing that is making your sales cycle longer. In other words, making it longer and longer time for you to close deals. It's costing you money and it's pissing your prospects off. The good news is you can fix it with one simple step. I hope what you're saying is, what are you talking about, Walker? What is it? Please tell me. When you go into a sales call, you have a set of expectations. When your prospect meets with you, they have a set of expectations, right? Of how this is going to go, of what they think it's going to be. And here's what I want you to remember. Your prospect has no idea how to buy from you. They don't have a clue. Even if they've been buying the shit you sell for a long time, they don't know how to buy. They've been trained by crappy salespeople who make it all about price, make it all about show up and throw up. They make it okay to shop your stuff. That's what they believe. You know why? Because nobody's ever told them they couldn't do that. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to understand that there's this big disconnect between salespeople and prospects. And I used to show this in class where I would take half of when I had people that met, in person or whatever, take half the class, send them out of the room. And I'd say, okay, those are the sales guys. And you people still in class, you are the business owners. And so, hey, business owner, there's a sales guy in the lobby waiting to see you. You're busy, right? Waiting to see you. How much time would you set aside for him? And they usually say somewhere around 5 minutes, max. And I say, who should do most of the talking? And usually they say, the sales guy. And how would you hope it would end? And almost invariably, the business owners say they leave all their information, get the hell out of my office. Okay, great. So then I go outside, out of the room, to the salespeople. And I say, you've got an appointment with your ideal prospect. They're right on the other side of this door. How much time do you need for this appointment? And they say somewhere 30 minutes to 60 minutes. And who would you hope would do most of the talking? They say, the prospect. And I say, and how are you hoping this would end? And they say, oh, well, they would sign a contract and give me money. Deal done. Can you see where these two sets of expectations don't match? Right? And if the salesperson walks in and that's their belief what's supposed to happen and the prospect has their belief, it's like gears grinding from the beginning. Does not work. Pisses off your prospect, pisses you off. It's a mess. Why are we trying to do this shit in secret? Because understand, if you don't put the rules out, make them transparent and agreed upon up front, you're going to fall back and follow your prospect's rules for the meeting. And I promise your prospect's rules are not in your favor. They never have been. Here's the way you can fix this. Put it out on the table. Maybe when you set the meeting, right? When you set the meeting, when you say, hey, how about this? When will you have an hour to meet with me? May not take that long, but I want to have that time set aside just in case we're having a good conversation. We'd hate for us to run out of time. Right? When you set the meeting, ask that question and then say, okay, let's pretend we had that meeting and it's over. And you're saying, thank goodness you, the salesperson, talked about this. What would we have covered in that meeting? And what they may say is, I don't know. And you say, okay, well, between now and the time we meet, I'm going to ask you the same question when I get there. Between now and the time we meet, be thinking about what you'd want to know from somebody like me who does blah, 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 blah. I'm going to have some things I want to ask you about as well. Do you mind if I just lay those out there for you? Make sure you're okay if we talk about those things. What am I doing? I'm getting permission to ask my questions, right? So I'm going to say, are you okay? Here's what I need to learn from you. I want to find out kind of where you are versus where you'd like to be. I want to find out what good might look like for you. I want to know what financial impacts would happen if things were good. Maybe what it's costing you now that they're not. And also I want to find out how you make a decision around here. Are you okay if we talk about those things when we get together? Usually they'll say, sure. The next thing we're going to figure out is what are we going to decide? See, because at the end of every meeting, there needs to be a yes or no decision to something. Otherwise, don't have the damn meeting. Send an email, right? There needs to be a yes or no decision because either a sale is moving forward or it's not. And if it's not moving forward, it's a no. And that's perfectly okay. Our job, right, is not to sell everybody. You're not the right fit for everybody. You want to be talking to those people who are motivated to buy, right? But you've got to figure that out, and they have to figure that. They may not show up motivated to buy, but they need to discover that in the meeting. If they're not motivated to buy, it's not our job to convince them. Your job is not to convince. Your job is to peel back the layers of the onion and see if there's a reason they should be motivated to buy. So I'm going to say, typically then of a meeting like this, now what I want you to think about before you say this is what's an ideal outcome for you? What is the thing that if everything went perfectly would happen? So in my case, it would be that they say yes to doing assessments for their team. Right? So I'm going to say, typically at the end of a meeting like this, we're going to decide whether or not we do a skills assessment, a skills benchmark on your team. Means you would spend somewhere, I don't know, $3,000 to $5,000. Depending on the situation, who knows, blah, 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 blah. Would you be okay at the end of this meeting we're going to have, tell me whether or not you'd be willing to spend $3,000 to $5,000 to understand what skills and mindsets your salespeople have and what you need to work on, whether or not you hire me. If they say, no, I can't decide that, I'm not making that kind of decision, you say, well, how about this? Other times we're deciding whether or not we even have another meeting where you bring some other people on your team who might need to be there. So at the end of our meeting, would you be comfortable telling me whether or not you can endorse to the other members of your team whether or not they should meet with me? All of us together. Before you have your meeting, you need to set up what are we going to be talking about? What would you like for me to talk about? Here's what I want to talk about. Here's what we should decide, yes or no, by the end of the meeting. Very simple. Lay it out there. Transparency is key. If somebody doesn't want to be transparent with you, if they won't agree to terms and conditions of the meeting of what you can talk about, what you can't, what needs to be covered, what shouldn't be covered, how much time, they're playing games. You won't get paid if they're playing games. I'm Walker McKay with No BS Sales. Put this to use. Make some money. Quit wasting your time and everybody else's. Thanks for listening to the No BS Sales School podcast. If you're struggling to close deals, then I want to invite you to take my free mini course, where you'll learn the 7 most expensive sales mistakes that will cost you time, money, and credibility. So be sure to click the link in the show notes or go to www.7salesmistakes.com. That's the number 7salesmistakes.com. Thanks again for listening to the No BS Sales School podcast.